Sure. So Jake Mays, formerly known as Jake's Coaching LLC, but now kind of taking on Magical Transformations as the new brand. And so a situation before was, pretty inconsistent months, I would say. I think we were averaging around 10K a month, but it was scraping tooth and nail to get there. I had done another coaching group before and they were good. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was a lot of fundamentals. And no one in that group really felt like they were doing more than 10 to 15K a month. So it wasn't necessarily the people I wanted to be around to get to the next level. And so I went, I was looking for something a little bit more. And that's when I found Mike. So I found Mike and, he was doing 50K a month. And that was obviously very appealing to me. And I was on the fence about it for sure. But I decided to take the leap and it was a very, very good choice.
Awesome, man. You've definitely come a long way. I guess, is there anything that at 8 to 10K a month that you were unable to do in your personal life or in business that you wished you could at that point?
Yeah, I had a lot of like even personal insecurities around it because there was like a little bit of the chip on the shoulder. So like I wanted to prove some people wrong. And I felt like, even at that time that they were right, that, like maybe there wasn't enough money to make in fitness or like I couldn't do it. And
Hmm.
so just some of like the personal confidence satisfaction was huge. And then, my family can go on vacation two, three times a year now, which is really awesome. And, I was able to hire, a couple employees that I delegate to. So when I go on vacation, I can just spend the time with my family and enjoy it. And we're even looking into buying a house right now, which 2 years ago thought was inconceivable, especially for the market and how terrible it is.
100%, dude. It's people say money isn't everything, but and I agree to an extent, but money is a lot of things because without it, you can't live the quality of life that you want to live, or the American dream, so to speak, right? And so, cool thing, now you can write off your trips because of the rebrand that we did. I guess what were your doubts and fears about joining Next Gen CEOs, hiring me as your business mentor? Did you have any kind of before pulling the trigger?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so, it's no secret. Like, obviously, there are bigger companies that do it that have like more testimonials, but you always get scared that you're just going to get lost in like a sea of coaches and clients and all this stuff. So when you go to somebody like Mike, who, is way more one-on-one, way more personable, you're obviously worried that, you're not going to get the information you need. It's not going to be worth the investment. And I didn't find that to be true at all. I found that to be the exact opposite. I got ton of one-on-one attention. We message through Facebook all the time. We have our weekly calls. I mean, I've chatted more with you than some of my family members over the last like year's time.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's what I say to a lot of people. It's like, I like to think I'm one of the best at what I do, but even if you don't agree or if that's not the case, I know for sure the level of personalization that I can do here is much greater than the people with the bigger companies can, just because you're a very large fish in a very small pond. And as you said, like you feel like we're constantly talking because there's always questions. And so with having that personalization, with having me in your back pocket, so to speak, what were your results? How much have you made? I think you've been with me a little over a year. How much did you make last year in 2024 in total?
Yeah, so we were right at 300K for the year.
Awesome. And do you remember what you did roughly the year before you joined me?
I do because it was 150, so it was literally double, like
Okay.
right at double.
Awesome. And that's pretty freaking cool, actually. And
Yeah,
your highest revenue month. So you said you were barely scraping by for 10K. If you can recall, what was your highest revenue month throughout the last year with me?
40K.
That's pretty big numbers, man. And what were you able to do in your life now at 40K that you couldn't before at 10K?
Yeah, kind of like I said before, like we're looking into buying a house here in the next few months, which we never thought was going to be possible at, you know, in our mid to late 20s here. We definitely thought we were going to have to save it through our 30s to be able to afford a home. We can go on our Disney trips. We did a rebrand. I think that's something that, I always got to give credit to you for. And that was super memorable for me as a client was you gave me the confidence to rebrand and to work with a niche of people that I'm super passionate about and that I actually have fun coaching. Like I know it's kind of veering a little off topic for the question, but I was getting a little burnt out like leading into late last year and you gave me the confidence to rebrand and now I have fun again. So I'm making more money than I've ever made. I'm having fun every day when I'm doing it. And I actually see this growing into a seven-figure business down the road.
Me too, man. And if your background doesn't scream fun, I don't know what does. Kind of going off of that, right? So we had the rebrand. I'm pumped that and honored that you kind of listened to me for that. I know that was a big part of what you guys enjoyed outside of business. And so it kind of became a no-brainer to me. And I know the road to get here wasn't easy. You have a ton of people in your free group. You have a ton of people paying you, high ticket. What did we implement in your business over the last year or so that helped you get 300K in revenue in 2024, a $40,000 per month business, and kind of, you know, on the road that you're on? What did we implement in your business throughout this time together specifically?
You had amazing strategies for payment flexibility. You had amazing strategies for more volume, for organic reach outs, especially your group that has the viral clips in. I've copied so many of them that have done so well on my Instagram. I think just bouncing ideas off of each other for like some paid ad stuff as well has been very helpful. Back end stuff, huge stuff to where, in our pipelines on Elite 360, I can move them in to their stage and then have a follow-up sequence ready to go for either not close for money or time or whatever it is. And then along with back end workflows on, Instagram comments and followers and stuff like that too. So honestly, it's probably too many to name in this short conversation, but those are the few that like stood out to me a lot.
Awesome, man. And those are kind of the important business scaling ones that you don't think about when you're at 8 to 10K, because you don't really have a lot going on at that point.
Right.
When you get to 40K, there's a lot of other stuff that you're having to do. So having those automations, I'm happy that you found those useful. Last question. Lots of business coaches and gurus out there. Lots of people are skeptical because they've been burned. Now, you luckily had a good experience before me, but what would you say to someone who's watching this right now, has been burned in the past, maybe had a conversation with me, maybe has clicked through a few of my videos, is thinking about joining Next Gen CEOs, but just hasn't come off the fence yet? What would you say to that person watching this?
Yeah, I would say that I grew up in a house where like my dad was always very, very skeptical of everyone and everything. Like I didn't even start a Roth IRA until a couple years after the fact because he warned me against people stealing my money, which was wild for like the companies I was looking at starting a Roth IRA in, which I think anybody would say is a good idea to do as young as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And this analogy is not mine, but a lot of people know it. I mean, if you also didn't marry your 13-year-old girlfriend and she cheated on you and you kept dating, it's the same thing. You get burned sometimes, but the worst mistake you can make is not trying again.
Exactly. And so looking back, do you feel as though your investment was one that you would do again?
Oh, absolutely. And I think for the people at 8 to 10, which I imagine is a lot of people watching this, the thing that you can't quantify is the compounding effect over the years. So it's not just the money up front that you pay. And like, yeah, it hurts at the time. Like it hurt me too. But now I don't even need to invest in another business coach for a long time. And I can just make money over this entire next year and 2 years and 3 years. And that amount of money is unquantifiable to the small investment that you make in a good business coach for 3 months, 6 months, a year, or whatever it is.
100%. I think it's easy to get caught up in the big number up front, and it's difficult to envision the compounding effect of making 10 grand a month for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
40 grand for the rest of your life.